Hello and welcome everybody. This is Julianne Grant from Razorleaf. We are here today to talk about unpacking 3D experience. We've been doing a series here with Kip Speck and Michael Craffey. And I think this is our 6th or 7th one, could be more. And today we're talking about using Multi-CAD and CATIA 3D Experience and SolidWorks. We are recording this session, and we have all the recordings of all our previous sessions on our YouTube page, so we welcome you to go check that out if you have missed those links. We will send this out in an email within the next 24 to 48 hours after this broadcast. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the questions panel as we go along here, and we will answer them at the end in a questions session. And anything we can't answer, we'll certainly follow up with you directly. So with that, I'm here with Kip Speck, and he's done a great job today on today's presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to him.
Thank you very much, Julian. Welcome, everybody. As Julian said, we've been doing our Unpacking 3D Experience webinars, and again, today's using Multi-CAD inside of the 3D Experience. So I'm going to go ahead and present it. My background a little bit is I've worked in the 3D Experience or the 𝘼𝘍𝙊𝙖 world for over 10 years now. Some experience in SolidWorks and CATIA. I'm not an engineer or designer, so more of my experience is in the PLM arena. So anyway, so let's get started and we'll kick it off. Today we'll be discussing using Multi-CAD with CATIA 3D Experience and SolidWorks in the 3D Experience platform. A little bit of background information. This was done using 2023X FD05 on-premise. It works the same on the DS public cloud with no issues. We used Product Architect, the PAU role, to define the structure. We also use Configuration Engineer role to apply configurations, effectivities, and variants. And we did that just to validate that when you have mixed CAD structures, configurations or engineering configurations, product configurations, all that still work. The parent node must be a 3DX physical product. So if I wanted to have a structure that has a CATIA V6 and a SolidWorks model in one assembly, my root node above the assembly must be a 3DX physical product. Okay. You need to generate the exact geometry. Otherwise, the graphics are tessellated. So what I mean by generate exact geometry, and this can be set up in your environment on-premise to run automatically on servers, or it can be run on the local machine, the user creating the models and things like that. If you're on the DS public cloud, it does happen automatically. I don't know if they charge you tokens or anything like that, but it does happen. You can use basic engineering connections or mates, right? In editing the CAD, you must be in the native app that created it. Now, the mate things is a little bit, there's a caveat to that because I can apply mates or constraints or engineering connections from component to component, regardless of what they are. There just may be a special technique that you need to follow. But if you're going to edit the geometry of the CAD, you must do that in the native app that created it. You can also use NX, Creo, CATIA V5. You know, if there's a DS connector for it, you can do the same thing, right? So there's no need to export or import step, IGES, and things like that. So that's what the connector's for, is so that when you save it through the connector, it creates all the information and entry points into the platform for you. So Multi-CAD engineering definition, and what is it about? You know, we're using Multi-CAD formats across either different divisions in your company, or you are a startup and you've hired other people to do CAD work for you. Your supplier may be creating motors or engines or whatever, and you're using those components in your assembly. So you don't own authorship of it, but you need to be able to bring them in. And doing step and all that other, all the other options is very cumbersome, or in maintaining integrity in your designs is very difficult. So being able to use this technique to be able to do this helps out quite a bit. You can use the product structure editor and 3D compose widget without opening it in CAD to be able to manipulate the assembly. Things like insert components into the assembly and even manipulate the positioning, things like that. You have positioning like concentric or point or tangent and things like that. So you can do a fairly good job of placing components in an assembly just using the widgets without doing the native app. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't use the native app to do or finalize connections or things like that, but you can still build an assembly. Think about a company that maybe makes bicycles and they've got 3 different rims or tires that they can use. So a salesperson could swap out one rim or the other, or one tire or the other, and make a whole new product, right? Without having to do a lot of engineering and things like that inside of the CAD structure. Okay? As long as the components existed already, right? You know, that gives the further ability to other people to be able to view the assemblies, collaborate, create markups or issues and things like that. And then again, you know, we did want to make sure that it still worked with configurations with Multi-CAD. And configurations, I don't mean SOLIDWORKS configurations for you SOLIDWORKS people. What I mean is product configurations where, like in a car, you have one type of battery or another type of battery, and it's one or the other, things like that. So different configurations of the product. Right? So what does that look like? You know, I like doing these kind of graphics to kind of lay out some of this to be able to have the discussion. And what I said earlier is this top level, the 3DX root node, has to be there to be able to do this kind of thing, right? So, and you'll see that underneath the 3DX node, I have a SOLIDWORKS, and as a child to the SOLIDWORKS, I have a CATIA file. Under this CATIA file, I have a SOLIDWORKS file. So you can mix and match how these go and then create structure based off of that. But the real key is to being able to have a new root node up here. Now, I might need another root node on a subassembly in some cases to be able to make sure this works as well. But it's manageable and it's very doable. The Product Editor Explorer gives us some really unique functions and features in the platform. It shows you the positioning of objects, you know, where they at in location, like in a car, each tire has its own position, right? So where it does maintain position information in there. It tells you your CAD master. I can create structure. I can reorganize the structure. I can apply my configuration, my effectivities, things like that. So, you know, as long as I have all the licenses needed, you know, the product editor role really gives me a lot of power, a lot of ability to manage information. So as you can see, you know, when you're looking at the interface, one of the important parts or one of the things that you want to see is it does identify what the CAD master is, or what's the where was the what native app was it created in. And again, over here, like I said, you can see here's the structure with the CAD master, the positioning. You'll notice different areas, different components are in there multiple times, but they'll have different positioning. One of the other nice features to be able to turn on your 6W tags is when I look at my CAD master, if I take and click the palette here, it will colorize, you know, the column or the rows in the grid view here, as well as in the 3D graphic area. It will colorize those, so I can see that all the yellow ones are SOLIDWORKS and all the blue ones are CATIA. So there's my blue CATIA files or models, and then the red yellow ones are my SOLIDWORKS. So, and it still gives you the same functionality. So if I am a user and I don't have all those roles, but I have 3D Play, with 3D Play, I can still open it up. I can see that same structure with the coloring, and I can also see and explode the view if I wanted to. So all the same functionality with the widgets is available, whether it's a completely 100% SOLIDWORKS structure or CATIA, NX, Creo, whatever it is. You still have the same functionality across all the other widgets. So let's take a look what it looks like in the platform. So here we're going to use the 3D Product Architect with 3D Compose to be able to manipulate or be able to structure these components. Here we have our mixed assembly, and we've added this cylinder here into the structure, and it happens to be a V6 component, right? And I want to put it inside of this structure here, and this is a SOLIDWORKS structure. So with 3DEXPERIENCE, I'm just using the product structure editor with the 3D Compose widget. And I'm going to use the tools to be able to position the cylinder inside of here without opening it in any CAD or anything else. Now, we use some of the built-in tools to be able to do this. And then later on, if you wanted to open it in CAD and things like that, you certainly could. But this just gives you an idea of what you can do with a mixed CAD, both CATIA and SOLIDWORKS, and how you can utilize the tools, the functionality in the widgets to be able to build structure. So here we go. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. So if I go to the edit, we'll notice that there is this button that's called Manipulate. If I select Manipulate, what it does is it gives me a set of, they're not really connections or constraints, but they're meant to be something like that. And they're cumulative, right? So if I select multiples, then it allows you to be cumulative in your different selections. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and just select Product. And I'm going to take this object and I'm going to slide it over here. And you're going to notice it kind of tries to position itself into here, right? So if I do that, if I can kind of put it in position correctly in various different ways, I can manipulate it a little bit, and just to show you some of the different methods and things like that. I could also just take my robot, put it on here now, and I can kind of use it to push it through and kind of position where I want it. Again, this is a SOLIDWORKS assembly. This is a CATIA part. And now you can kind of see the power of being able to do these kind of things. So again, I can kind of do the same thing here. And I can take this one, and I want to manipulate it. And I want to do the same thing, right? So now I'm able to manipulate the models and things like that inside of the platform without opening it in CAD. Right? So this gives me a lot of different tools, and you'll notice it's fairly accurate, in being able to position things inside of the platform. If I've got a set of models, maybe I make a product where some parts are interchangeable. Think about a bicycle where you have different wheel sizes and things like that. I could create a structure and then add different wheels to it, and just to be able to create a product structure without having to have a CAD license to do that, as long as the CAD exists already. So now that we've saw how it works inside of the 3DEXPERIENCE on the platform, we're going to use the native CAD. We'll use SOLIDWORKS in conjunction with CATIA to be able to do constraints and things like that as well. All right, so now let's take a look at the structures inside of SOLIDWORKS. And again, the exercise we're going to do is just putting a mate in between two components. Now, again, this support is a SOLIDWORKS assembly, and this pin or this dowel, this bar part, is a CATIA component. So I want to go ahead and open this up, and I found that if I do it that way, it's easier for me to make it. So what I want to do is I'll go ahead and select the SOLIDWORKS piece. I'll select the mate. I'm going to select concentric, and I'm going to choose here. As you saw in SOLIDWORKS, you still have all the same functionality. You can still do all your constraints and things like that. The point was to show you that in SOLIDWORKS you can mate things that are different or in the platform, with different CAD applications, you can mate between different CAD authoring components, right? So it'd be very difficult if you got parts from somewhere and you could stick them in, but you really couldn't position them anywhere with any kind of relative accuracy and things like that. So just so you know, it is capable. I do find it a little difficult in some areas, and had to kind of learn my way around different ways to constrain things or create mates or engineering connections. So because they're not the same CAD type, right? So there's still going to be challenges in some ways. Okay. So in this part, we talk about a little bit about like supplier exchange and what you want to do with a supplier exchange. So let's take a look at the case where you have a supplier that does your CAD work for you, or you might want to send it to a vendor. They notice something and they say, hey, there's a problem or whatever, or the end result is that you get updated CAD data from a supplier or vendor, and you need to bring that into the structure without destroying all the work that you've put in. So here you'll see that all the mates and things like that I've already created, as long as your modeling practices are good, it'll maintain all those for you. Okay. So let's say that you've decided that the material for the support is incorrect, and then also inside of here you need a fillet put in. So, and you have a supplier that does that. So you're not doing this in-house, you have a supplier update the CAD for you and supply you with new geometry. So one of the things we want to be able to do is we want to be able to send our files to our supplier or to our vendor. The other thing I want to do is go ahead and create a revision of these as well. So on this bottom one, I've already done that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come down here, we're going to select it, go down to our life cycle, and we're going to say new revision. Okay. And we'll say revise. Now, you'll notice that right now it'll here when the indexing is done, it'll say that this isn't the latest version. So there we go. So we're going to simulate that we send it off to our supplier for them to make revisions to the models, and then they're going to send them back to us with updated models. So our suppliers send us the new models, and we've received them, and we're going to go ahead and incorporate those into our design. Now remember, this is a mixed CAD, so one of the things we have to be prepared for is some of our vendors work in SolidWorks, some of V5, things like that. So it's kind of what we're taking a look at. So if I bring over one of my CAD models, right, so I can bring it in. This is one of the ones, this is the one I currently have, and then my supplier has given me a new one. This and replace by an existing, right? So replace by content. So my supplier sent me stuff, so now I want to go ahead and get that data into the 3DEXPERIENCE. Right? I believe this is the correct one, not the right one. So let's go ahead and forget the other one. So replace by content. There we go. So you can see they've already updated the material. It all looks good. So I've updated the geometry of this file, this part with the new design. So I'm going to go ahead and save it to the platform. And it's telling me to lock it. I'm going to say lock, save it. All right, so now you can see in our assembly that this one is already updated. Now let's go ahead and update the other component that our supplier sent us with. So we want to get this one to the latest revision as well. So go ahead and select it. we're going to right mouse click on it and say replace by revision, and replace by latest revision or revision, either one. I'll select this one just to show you the interface. So I can say latest revision, there it is, and replace it by A1. I can say okay, and we have success, and close it. And now we can see that our materials changed. So as we talked a little bit earlier, I just wanted to kind of cover, I'm not going to go into configurations and things like that. It's a lot more advanced topic, but I do want you to see that when you apply configurations to the structure, you know, based on your model versions, configuration, or variants and options that you have, it still works the same. And you'll see here on this interface that even though I have the structure at a slide mount and a bar mount or different configurations of this, and I can go into my tools, click my filter, and apply my configurations, and it still honors all that same structure as you would think it would. So for right now, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Okay, thanks, Kip. Please, if you have any questions, please put them in the question panel in a minute and get started. Okay, got a question here, Kip. What version of SolidWorks are you using, and does it work with SolidWorks Desktop and SolidWorks Connected?
So I use SolidWorks 2023, and yes, it works the same with desktop or SolidWorks Connected.
Okay, great, thanks. And can you use the engineering release widget for this?
You can use the engineering release widget. It's a little more restricted in the replace with things like that. So you can build the structure and still do some of this work. I find that if that's the only license you have, it's quite fine. You can do most of this work the same way. I do find that the product architect, it has more functionality for these types of things.
Okay, great, thank you. Can CATIA 3DEXPERIENCE open SolidWorks models?
That's kind of a interesting question. Does it open the models directly? No. What it opens is the exact geometry. But yes, the answer in a roundabout way is yes. It opens the model in a exact geometry mode from whether you're opening SolidWorks inside of CATIA or CATIA inside of SolidWorks. It does open it. And this goes back to what I said earlier, is that you need to use the exact geometry conversion or derived output to be able to do this. Otherwise, what you get open is a very tessellated object that you can't really do anything with. You can't mate, you can't pick faces or anything like that.
Okay, well, speaking of the exact geometry feature, where do you configure that?
So under the administrative roles, under content, there's a section to be able to configure exact or derived output. And you can pre-configure, especially on cloud or on-premise, you can pre-configure what happens or what types get created, but it's under the administrative, under the content section of the administration tool.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Please put them in the questions panel box. We'll be happy to answer them. Okay, we got one more. Can Multi-CAD and CATIA 3DEXPERIENCE also support ECAD connectors?
Yes, you're not necessarily, I don't know if you're actually mating ECAD, but yeah, you can have a structure with electrical components like circuit boards and everything else inside of that same structure, and it will support that, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anyone else have any more questions? Okay, I'm not seeing anything come in the panels at the moment. So we might as well go to the next slide to talk a little bit about our next event.
So in our next event, we're going to look at managing collaborative access. And just kind of a brief description, I might have a structure of a vehicle that I'm designing, and I've got a group that's focused on the drivetrain, right? How do I give them access to a specific area of the vehicle without having to create copies or substructures or things like that, and still maintaining all the information, because they have to design in context of everything else. So how do we manage that access to those areas, or that definition of what they need to have access to? Another one might be you have a supplier that is restricted to seeing certain areas of your structure, and how do you do that in the platform? So we'll take a look at managing collaborative access, and I don't mean from a security like like an ITAR or anything like that, but how do you give access to certain areas or certain parts of the product to other people?
Okay, perfect. Sounds good, Kip. So that'll be on September 5th, 2024 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We thank everybody today for your time, and we hope you have a wonderful afternoon/evening, and we will be sending this recording out shortly. Thank you very much and have a good day. And thank you, Kip, for a great presentation.
Thank you.